Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of CafeTalk. I'm here with my friend Jolin, as usual, and just wanted to give a shout out to everybody right now. If a like and subscribe, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It helps us out a lot. If you liked us, just give us a thumbs up. If you don't, it's up to you guys. But we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So Jolin, you got anything to add?
Yeah. Comments would be nice too. You could tell us what's been working, what you like that we do, what you don't like, maybe potential topics that we can talk about.
We love some constructive criticism, everybody. Just go out there and be you. Be your beautiful self. Go do it.
Just because you're hearing us talk doesn't mean it's all about us. We want to include our audience. We want to include you guys as well.
Yeah, give us your opinion. Tell us what you thought about our conversation this time. What was your thought on our thought process?
Speaking of which, Victor, what are we gonna talk about today? Or better yet, how are you doing? How are you doing today?
Today I'm doing pretty good. I'm just usual. Funny story. I'm not gonna lie to you. I went all the way to Northridge, which from my house is actually like a good 30 miles from my house. I drove all the way to Northridge today to buy a comic book because today is Wednesday and they released a new Batman Dark Knight's metal tie-in. For anyone who doesn't really understand, it's just a comic book thing. You can search it up if you like. It's a great story. I recommend it. But other than that, don't worry about it. The point is, I went all the way to Northridge, 30 miles, to get the comic book, only to find out last second, no, I didn't have my wallet. I completely forgot my wallet entirely. Like, I left it at home, and I felt so ashamed. I was like, a wasted day, 2 hours of driving, especially with the LA traffic. So I was just horrible. Right now I'm just trying to recover from that, trying to keep my spirits up, trying to stay cool in this dead heat right now. I don't know why it's so hot.
For those of you listening who don't live in Los Angeles or the surrounding area, LA is experiencing a really weird heat wave. Usually around October, beginning of November, things start to cool down a little, but it's been 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the past couple days.
Yeah, actually, it's already Wednesday, and the weather report only reported Monday and Tuesday being in the triple digits, but even Wednesday's in the triple digits today. It's really weird.
It's very weird. Yeah. But you're not alone. I've done that too, where I've gone somewhere and I've left my wallet. Back when I was living in my own apartment, when I was going to UCI. Shout out to anyone who's at UCI. I walked to a grocery store that was 5 miles from my apartment. 5 miles? Yeah, I lived pretty far from all the grocery stores and stuff. Once I got there, I was like, hey, should I pay with my card or should I pay with cash? There was an ATM nearby, and I figured I should probably just
get cash.
Withdraw some money.
Yeah.
I go to reach from a wallet, and it's not there, so I have to walk 5 miles back. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna. I don't need to eat today.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Might as well stay home. You worked out either way, 10 miles. Damn.
Yeah.
My goodness, Jolin. That's a turn.
So you're not alone, brother.
Thany you. I appreciate that. You know my struggle.
Yeah.
But Jolin, I actually was wondering if we could talk about video games, retro games. I've been hearing on the news.
Before we get into that, just future apologies. I'm getting a little sick, so you might hear me sniffle. I don't know if it's actually because I'm getting sick or a cold, or because I just have allergies.
Yeah.
So if I sniffle or sneeze or something,
apologies.
Future apologies.
So recently in the news or just social media, I've been seeing a lot of information on the whole Nintendo stuff about how they're renewing their consoles. The Nintendo Entertainment
product.
Yeah, right? Exactly. They're doing the classic editions of everything. So I want to talk about what was the first game you ever played. Actually, what game made you into a gamer?
The first game I played isn't necessarily the game that made me into a gamer.
Yeah,
it just opened me up to gaming. And that would be Pokemon Stadium for the Nintendo 64.
Hey,
that was the first game I ever really remember playing.
Yeah.
The game that made me into a gamer, ironically, is still Pokemon. It's probably Pokemon Fire Red, which is for the Game Boy Advance.
That's actually one of the only Pokemon games I ever passed. I passed very few Pokemon games, but
I passed all of them. So after Fire Red, I got all the other ones: Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, which is an amazing game. I love Emerald.
Yeah. A lot of people do, I think.
And then I stopped with Diamond and Pearl. And then it just escalated from there. Like I got a PS3, played Call of Duty, lost my PS3, and then in college I switched over to PC gaming, and then now
From
all I
then
do
on,
is PC game.
Yeah,
I would love to have another handheld just because I could take it wherever I go.
true.
Like if I could get my hands on another if I could get my hands on a Game Boy Advance SP with all the Pokemon games that I played as a kid, I would
You'd
love
be
it.
happy?
Even if I get my hands on a Switch, that would be even better because there's so many games on the Switch that I want to play, like Breath of the Wild, ARMS, all the virtual consoles of like.
Yeah, don't they have the Pokemon games in the store?
Yeah, the virtual consoles.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. You could play all of them right there.
Yeah. What was the game that made you a gamer or introduced you to gaming?
So the first game that introduced me to gaming, honestly, even though I remember it being Sonic, I want to say it was Metal Slug.
Really, Metal Slug?
Metal Slug, because I remember going to the laundromats and playing with my dad, Metal Slug, and always asking for him like for a quarter, and he was like, "No, we need the quarters for like clothes," and I was like, "Come on, Dad, please, just like one more." And because I would die like on the first level, I would always ask for like more and more quarters. I would spend like $3 on that.
Come on, Pops, this is my dream. I just want your
Dave.
blessing.
I just want you to support me.
I can see that. I personally like never passed the Metal Slug game. Like I played them, but I just don't ever remember passing them.
Well, I mean, they're designed to get so hard to the point that you're going to die and you're going to use up a lot of quarters. You know,
Yeah,
they're designed to like drain you of quarters. You know, the whole PS2 version of them. There's like the collection of the Metal Slug. If you ever play that, you can constantly get like revives and you can get through the story. There's actually a really cool story to that. You know, the whole Hitler alien stuff. It's ridiculous, but it fits the universe that Metal Slug is in, and it makes a great game. But going back to that question, I played Metal Slug with my dad. I remember that being the first game that I got really into, and I was like, wow, this, I honestly didn't know that they were called video games at the time. I was just like, this is really fun. I would constantly want to come back and play this. And that's when my dad bought the Sega Genesis. Or I don't know if someone gave me the Sega Genesis for Christmas or something. I just remember, the point is, I only remember having it. I don't remember how I got it. The first game I ever got for Sega Genesis was the Sonic 2.
Oh.
I think it was Sonic and Knuckles or something like that. I remember the intro perfectly. It was Tails on the plane, Sonic flying over like supersonic, and then they land and Knuckles just comes in, hits Sonic, and just takes all the emeralds. And at first you think Knuckles is the bad guy because he takes his emeralds, but then you know the story so far, etc. But yeah, that's the game that got me into gaming. That's the game that like I was like, hey, console version, I could bring it home. There's video games at my house. I could play it here. And then I started buying like a Tom and Jerry game. I don't know if you ever heard of that game.
No, I haven't.
It was so hard, so difficult. Either way, from then on, I just kept going to like the PS2, the GameCube, the Xbox, the first Xbox. I don't know why I went down this route. I shouldn't have gone down this route. I regret going down this route, but I went down the route of Xbox. And sorry out there for everyone who's a major fan of Xbox. No malintent, no what is it called? Offense to you guys at all whatsoever. My personal experience with Xbox has been a horrible one. My original Xbox broke like by itself, like it just didn't want to read discs. So I was like, okay, that's it, I'll put that away. But then I had enough money to get the Xbox 360, so I bought it. And I even bought the extended memory from it and everything. I bought a bunch of games, and then it got the Red Ring of Death. And even after those first two mistakes, I still went out and bought an Xbox One. So I bought an Xbox One and I was like, hey, it's the newest technology. It's not going to mess up like the other ones. They fixed all the mistakes that they had on the previous ones. That one broke too. That one just would either restart by itself or wouldn't read the discs or wouldn't let me leave the main menu, the home menu, to the point where it honestly wouldn't just turn on anymore. So I don't know why I never learned. I should have just gone with Sony from the beginning. Like me, Sony all the way from now on. Like I'm gonna go out and buy a PS4 hopefully. But yeah, that's my experience with video games. Retro games in general, I've never really much played much of them. I don't know. Have you played a lot of retro games?
Now.
Yeah.
Well, I've played some retro games. Like I'm halfway through Earthbound. I remember playing like the Super Mario World, Super Mario
64?
2, Dr. Mario.
Oh,
What is it? Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link.
yeah. Oh, I
And
remember that
then
one.
I really want to play A Link Between Worlds because I know how crazy the fan base is, or just how good of a game it is.
Yeah.
I played Ocarina of Time, and then a couple other 64 games, but anything from like the NES and the SNES era,
Yeah.
not so much.
Well, what do you classify as retro? Like from what point and onwards would you consider retro?
I guess from like Pac-Man to Super 64 Mario.
That's
Anything
actually a
between
good
that,
one.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
where
good
I classify
gap.
retro games.
Yeah,
as.
me too. That's a good one. Yeah, like I never played them when they came out as well, but I did play them. You know, as I grew more and more attached to video games in general, I started playing like Pac-Man, Tetris, Pong from the Atari system. I remember going back to that and getting Atari. I love that thing. I played some games that I actually never even heard of or thought that I never even heard of, and then they became like huge things. You know, like God of War.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's not a retro game, but I know for sure it's
mean,
like
it's
it's
going
like that
back there.
situation.
Like if you play the first God of War, it feels like a retro game.
Oh yeah. But
Well,
I meant
now if you play any game, it feels retro. Though I will give it this. Like now with the not up and coming, but like this giant acceptance and surgence of indie games.
yeah.
There are a lot of games that feel retro but aren't, just like Kingdom, Undertale.
Yeah.
Um,
They even have the art style to go with it, but it's like it's new, but it just
yeah,
brings you back
like
to
Mighty
that time.
Number 9 is one of those titles too that tried to be retro, but it failed so much.
It did.
Like the graphic, first of all, Mighty Number 9 has like a 2.5 dimensional style. So like
2.5.
yeah, so it doesn't look flat like how any Mario game would look, or like Yoshi Island.
Yeah.
That's like a 2D game,
Yeah,
like
oh,
2D side
that's great.
scroller. Mighty Number 9 is a 2.5 where like it's still a side scroller, but when you look at the background, it has depth.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's what people classify as a 2.5.
So would Undertale be classified as a 2.5?
Undertale is like a one dimension. It's like 1D because you're looking at everything from above, aren't you?
You what?
Oh no, you're looking at things in some angles. You're looking at things from above, and some angles you're looking at things from the side.
Yeah.
So I think it's still just like a side scroller. It's like a 2-dimensional side scroller.
Oh, okay. Because I remember, well, because you said that the whole background has depth, I thought of a scene in Undertale. I don't know if anyone has
Oh,
out
the
there.
parallax?
Like, which one? What
The
parallax?
one that we talked about, where like you see buildings
Yeah,
and things
exactly.
move.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. You know, where you're fighting sand, or you're towards the end of the game, pretty much. I'm not gonna give spoilers or anything, but
Well, the game has been out for years.
Exactly.
For like 2 years already.
exactly. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there's got to be like some people that have not played it at all. Shogun.
I played it. I just haven't passed it yet. All right.
Oh, either way, there's a point where you're like walking in a room and you see like a great view behind you because there's like open windows, like big giant windows, and you see like ruins in the background.
Yeah.
And you could see the depth of the ruins, and like there's actually like there's a lot of detail in that, even though it's just pixel art. So that's what I meant. Like, would that be considered 2.5?
I guess to some people they would consider it 2.5, but I just consider it 2-dimensional. Because
Okay.
parallax is the whole parallax that you see in Undertale. The buildings aren't 3-dimensional; they're still 2-dimensional.
Oh, I see.
So it's just like if you took a piece of paper and then you put another piece of paper behind it, and you just have like a stacking of 2-dimensional things.
So would 2.5 add like a pseudo third dimension to each building?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, I see. That's a good explanation. So you were saying about Mighty Number 9? Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, so Mighty Number 9, before it came out, everyone saw it as a spiritual successor to Mega Man.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was
not
going for.
not like Battle Network Mega Man, like original Blue Bomber. But when it came out, everyone was just disappointed in the game because Mega Man has always been known to be innovative in their bosses, and literally 6 out of the 8 bosses you fight are exactly the same.
Really?
If not 7 of the 8. There's one boss in Mighty Number 9 who's like Mighty Number 8, where his boss battle is totally different from everybody else's. It's actually really interesting because his boss, like the boss battle takes the arena is like the whole size of the field
Oh,
that you
okay.
have to go through.
Wow.
Everyone else's, you do the same thing. You progress through the levels and stuff.
It's just
And
like
then-
minor differences here and there, just to show that it's a different person, but pretty
Yeah.
much it's the same concept.
Yeah, kind of like how Mega Man would do it. You like once you beat one boss, you can use their elemental power, whether it's like fire, ice, water.
Yeah.
Mighty Number 9, they try to do that, but literally you can beat the bosses without the elemental power, and like you can go through the whole rest of the game without ever having to like rely on your elemental power.
Well, I mean, didn't Mega Man X do that too?
Sure,
Like,
yeah,
could
you can
pretty
do
much
yeah, you
pass
can
the
do
game with
that.
just, like, the
But there were
shot.
certain parts where you can use like Armadillo's ball to progress and like get lives and stuff, and like it just felt good when you use their powers.
Uh-huh.
And Mighty Number 9, it just feels very indifferent.
So you're saying that the extra powers felt like they were just there. They're here if you need it, but you don't.
Yeah,
actually
like they
need it.
weren't
they're-
exciting to use. They were
Yeah.
just, oh, okay, I have to use this flame charge. All right, I have to use her bubbles
Mm-hmm.
for that. And literally, like the bubbles is probably the only one you ever really need.
So they gave you no challenge to go around or to solve with the newly found powers. They were just like, hey, this might actually help you get it faster, but it's not like a puzzle or anything that like.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they tried to add an arcade feel to it where in order to defeat an enemy, you have to first weaken them into a red state, and then when you get into the red state, you have to dash through them.
Mm-hmm.
And the dash is supposed to be like you're absorbing their power, which in a sense makes you stronger.
Yeah.
But that dash just killed it for everybody who like saw it as a successor to Mega Man.
Really?
Yeah, like if they didn't advertise Mighty Number 9 as the spiritual successor to Mega Man,
Yeah.
it probably would have done a lot better than it did now.
Oh, okay, I see. But because they did so, a lot of people were expecting much more.
Yeah, and I didn't mean this to turn into a rant of like Mighty Number 9. I have
No,
the
that's
game and
fine.
I'm playing it, and I think it's okay.
I
But that's
understand.
just
It's all good.
it's an example of one of those games that try to have the retro feel to it, but it just didn't work. On the other side,
I was gonna say,
what I've seen of Undertale, they do an amazing job at bringing that retro feel back.
no, I've heard nonstop. Like,
When you played Undertale, you did like the neutral run and the pacifist run,
I honestly couldn't bring myself to do the what is it called, the
genocide run.
genocide run. I could not do that. Honestly, after going through like the neutral run and the pacifist run, you actually get emotionally connected
And
to
I've
the
heard about
characters.
that a lot.
Yeah, you just cannot do a genocide run after that. Well, I mean, at least I couldn't. Even though in my mind I already had it set, I'm literally gonna kill all these guys. I'm gonna murder them and just can't wait to see them die in front of me from how strong I am. And then all these like friendships mean nothing to me. And then at the end, once like you see the ending of it, you're like, no, I worked so hard to actually accomplish this. You know, I can't
Yep.
just fucking ruin it. Even then, like this game at this point is overhyped. You know, like there's no other way around it.
Undertale?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like it's overhyped. I feel like it deserves the hype that it got.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, think of someone that's never even like seen Undertale or never even heard of it, right?
Yeah.
And they go into like this whole community, and it's just nonstop the best game I ever fucking played. The best game of like
Oh,
2008,
okay, I know what you're
whatever. It's just it's overwhelming. That's what it is. You know, it's not
Okay.
maybe it's not overhyped, but it is overwhelming how much hype it has.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not trying to be part of that, but it is. I'm trying to give more of a balanced critique to it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's a game where you have to take your time to appreciate. You know, it's a game that will pay back all the time you put into it by giving you a great experience. But at the same time, if that game or that type of game is not for you, you will not have fun at all.
Oh, I know what you mean.
You know, it's you have to take your time, play through it, learn the story, and learn to the history of each character. And if you're not, pretty much it's an RPG, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not an RPG player, if you're more of a run and gun like Call of Duty player, you're probably not gonna find it as fun. You know, going slowly through the story and through this magical world that like Undertale is. So it's a good game. It's a great game, actually. It's super fun. I passed it twice already, and I've been trying to get you to play it, so you already know I love it.
We'll eventually play it.
Yeah, hopefully. So, Well, I had a question lined up for you.
I did too.
I totally
I don't.
forgot.
I was
right
gonna
now.
go out.
Oh, because you talked about Mighty Number Nine being, I guess for lack of a better word, disappointment. What game do you believe actually lived up to the hype that it had? Besides Undertale, because we just talked about it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
What indie game do you believe lived up to the hype that it set up for itself, and maybe even delivered more than what it promised? If you have a game.
Yeah. So the only ones I can think of are Stardew Valley and The Long Dark. Like Stardew Valley,
Okay.
the community has called it like the spiritual successor to Harvest Moon, which is, I think it was a Super Nintendo game. If not, it was like a Nintendo Entertainment System and an NES game.
Yeah. I think it was.
And it was
SNES.
just like farming and world building, and Stardew Valley, like at its core, is the same. But the creator of it, I don't know what his actual name is, but he goes by his alias online is like Concerned Ape.
Mm-hmm.
So he adds like more stuff that you can do. I guess I don't know. I haven't. I've been meaning to go back and play Harvest Moon just to see the comparisons.
Yeah. When's
But
the
to
last
my
time you
understanding, I never played Harvest Moon.
Oh, Harvest Moon. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I thought you meant like
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. Yeah.
No. So to my understanding,
Yeah.
like he added new things, like you can go into relationships with the town people. There's like a mining mechanic around it, and it's not you don't focus solely on your farm.
Oh, okay.
There's
I
like
see.
other stuff you can do in the game,
Yeah.
and that's literally like what makes the game what it is. Aside from how amazing the AI is in the game, like the script writing, and then just the pixel art is like the caviar on top.
Oh, really?
Like his pixel art is amazing, though the community has gone and like changed a couple things,
Yeah.
which he admits that the community's pixel art is better than his, but he kind of takes that with a sour face. Like he doesn't like to admit it, but
Yeah.
it's just because like he worked so hard on it. It's like
Well, of course.
Stardew Valley was like his like love child.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, it,
And
it does
then-
look better, but he himself, he works so hard on the art that's already there. He just wants people to appreciate what's in front of him.
Yeah.
I get that.
And then The Long Dark.
Which one's that one?
It's the whole premise of the game is like you're a pilot that gets stuck in some geomagnetic storm and you crash land in the Canadian wilderness, and you have to survive. It's like a horror survival game, but you don't fight aliens or the undead or some kind of like supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah.
You're literally fighting to survive against real world things like the cold, animals that'll prey upon you, infections, hunger, like real things.
Yeah. And you have to go scavenge for like food and
Yeah,
shelter
you
and all that
scavenge,
stuff.
you hunt, you craft,
Wow.
and you survive.
That sounds interesting.
So the game wasn't super hyped when it was still in alpha mode or even beta mode.
Yeah.
I think it had a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter like reached its goal, and it got greenlit on Steam. And I was lucky enough to buy it when it was still greenlit for like $5. Now it's like a $15 game. They came back into the eye of the public because they just released their story mode, like the first couple chapters of the story mode.
Yeah.
And I played through the first part of the story mode. I'm halfway into the second part, and it's really good. I will admit there are some things that they can probably do, like make some of the cutscenes and dialogue skippable.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of dialogue.
Oh, really?
Like when there's a cutscene, there's a lot of dialogue.
It's not the type of dialogue that's read by itself. Like you actually have to read it all yourself.
No, it's red. Like they got voice actors and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just feel like maybe if you made it skippable, like the game would feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I know dialogue is important to establish the lore and stuff, but yeah, that's my only criticism. Other than that, the art style is totally unique and it looks great. It's kind of like a mixture of simplistic realism with like the textures of South Park. Like
Ooh.
it kind of has like a paper-esque, but like a really nice kind of style.
Okay, all right. That sounds
it looks good.
interesting. Ooh, hello.
It plays great. I like it.
Yeah.
I've yet to pass it. But The Long Dark is probably one of those games that like wasn't hyped up initially, but
Well, just a quick side note. Going back to that whole unskippable dialogue, maybe it's probably just like the art from Stardew Valley, like the creator of Stardew Valley, just like he appreciates the art that other people create, but he himself wants everyone to appreciate his own art. maybe the creators of The Long Dark want people to appreciate the story by not making it skippable.
Yeah, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like I can see that, but I don't know.
Like-
I'm like a fan of options.
Yeah, no, of course. But I mean, think about it like in the eyes of, well, you know the Game Grumps, you know the YouTube channel Game Grumps.
Yeah, like of course we love them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
those
just
are
saying for
great.
people that don't know about that, you know, Aaron Hansen, Ego Raptor, he has said multiple times that he hates cutscenes, or at least that he just doesn't like them. He feels like he just wants to get straight to the game.
Yeah.
In that case, when you have a person like that who would completely skip the story, who would completely skip like pretty much everything that's important to understand why you're doing what you're doing, I could see why making it unskippable would be important aspect to it. You know what I mean? Especially since the story is what gives you purpose and meaning as to what you're doing, rather than just randomly doing random stuff and you're just left wondering like, what is this for?
So on Aaron's side, where he doesn't like cutscenes, I can see that because usually, like if you're not a fan of cutscenes or those kind of things in game, it's because the cutscenes and stuff take you out of the feel of the game. I don't want to use the word like immersion because going back into the Game Grumps, Barry Kramer, he did a whole video on like what immersion is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just to summarize it, immersion is a really big term that most people use to not
Incorrectly?
to like just touch the surface on something. Like immersion and fun can be interchangeable.
Oh, okay,
like
I see.
what's fun about it? What's immersive about it?
Yeah, okay, I see.
Right? Just go check him out on Grump Out. That's an amazing video to watch. To go back to that, like cutscenes can take you out of the feel and the mood of the game.
Yeah.
And I can understand why people don't like them. But you have games that like you have games like The Last of Us where even their cutscenes, as amazing as they are, they're skippable.
Oh, true. That's
And
true.
people don't skip them because they're an important part of world building for
Yeah.
The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Like I would understand in that case, but then, and then still on Aaron's point, like where I can see it, if your game is strong enough to create the world and build it, and for you to understand the
gameplay?
lore with the gameplay,
Yeah.
not relying on cutscenes at all, you have a pretty solid game.
Yeah, true.
And then if you need cutscenes and stuff to explain like this is why the people of this game are in such a travesty or whatever, this is why your hero came to save them, then your
you're
game
hands.
still may be solid, but you're explaining stuff
Yeah.
rather than showing it.
Okay, I see. I understand.
And then that goes a lot with movies and novels and stuff. If like imagine in movies, if every single cutscene or like every skit had like a narration to it, because the narrator's like, oh, the reason why the Avengers assembled is because of this alien apocalypse. Like rather than doing that or having somebody
They just
explain
show
it,
it.
they show it by assembling them without them knowing it, and then they realize, hey, you know, we work well together. We should form this group to protect the world.
All right. Then going back to The Long Dark, what part of the story did you not like that made you want to skip it?
In The Long Dark, what made me want to skip the cutscenes
Yeah.
is just that early on they established the plot. One of the cutscenes is when you ask your friend or your significant other to fly with you because you need them to help you navigate or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget because I played The Long Dark a while ago.
Uh-huh.
The whole like purpose and the whole everything
Reason.
about that cutscene, like identifying that this girl is your significant other, the reason why you wanted to go with you, the tension that you feel, it's all established in like the first 10 seconds of the cutscene. We can tell that because that's basically what our generation has been hardwired to do, to identify the little things.
Of course, yeah.
So we know what's going on already in the first 10 seconds of this cutscene, and this cutscene is 3 minutes long. Or it's like 2 minutes long. I'm probably exaggerating, but it's a very long cutscene.
Yeah, okay.
In perspective to other cutscenes.
But does it not go into other stories, or does it stick to the topic of,
It
hey,
sticks to that
this
topic.
is your wife, you're explaining it to your wife,
Yeah, it's
explaining why you're
basically
going
it's basically hand-holding.
Oh, okay.
To tell you like it's just showing you like this is your significant other. This is the problem that's about to happen.
Oh, I
This is
see.
what's going on.
Now I understand.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that makes
like
sense.
if the cutscene was skippable, I feel like you would still be as
You can pretty much watch the first 10 seconds, understand what you need to understand, and then skip the rest because the rest is just too much.
because
And you'll still enjoy the
because
game.
we can put like 1 and 2 together. Like we
Exactly.
know what's going
Yeah.
on.
I mean, especially gamers, you know, they're already accustomed to that. You know, they're already just gone through years of cutscenes and stories. They already know how to piece the story together, even if it's just gameplay.
Yeah, like I bet if I put up a still shot of The Last of Us, just any random still shot, somebody can probably tell like, oh, this is a game where some kind of world travesty happened, and you're trying to make things right, and that's basically the plot of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more to it, but like as like a 10-second assumption, it hits the nail relatively close on the head.
No, definitely. No, I understand. I can see that. I can imagine seeing like a screenshot of like the clickers or something, and you're like, oh, an infection hit the world. Now you're like the last surviving one, so you have to find shelter. Literally, if someone just described that's a pretty good hit on the head for The Last of Us. You know, I mean, it's in the name. I understand. I get you. Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
like,
so that's why. That's my take on it.
No, I get it. That's a good description. I like that. But, you know, we kind of strayed from the retro games and went into indie games, but, you know, it's still games are games.
I feel like that was a good segue somewhere in there. Because
we were
talking about retro games, and then we were talking about indie games that felt retro.
Exactly, yeah.
And now we're on this topic of like how do we categorize immersion and stuff.
And sticking to games, have you ever played any, what were they called, AAA games?
Oh yeah, a lot. Like every Call of Duty game's a AAA game.
Oh, right. Is there any AAA games? Because I know that's like, it's everywhere. AAA games are AAA games because they're supposed to be great. They're advertisements for everywhere. Everybody at least has heard of the game.
Yeah.
Is there any game that has stuck out throughout the years that's a AAA game for you?
That's a hard one.
Straight out, you instantly, like, I already have an answer for this question myself, but any game that automatically you think of and you're like, I could play this anytime, all the time.
The only game that really comes to mind is probably like the BioShock series.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you play all of them?
I played 1 and Infinite.
Oh, okay.
I didn't play 2, but then again, like, I know 2 is from a different perspective.
I actually have heard mixed signals about 2. Like,
because you're playing, like, for what I know from the game, you're playing as one of the big daddies.
You are, yeah.
And you're going around collecting the daughters. Yeah, the little sisters.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the main character. Like, I don't know, I forget if Booker T or something is the main character. Yeah,
No, that's only in
it's only in Infinite?
Infinite, yeah.
I don't know, Infinite's the one that I remember the most because I played it the most recently.
Okay,
and Infinite was a really good game. I liked it.
I've actually heard multiple mixed comments on Infinite as well.
I have Infinite. We can play it.
Yeah, I'm down to play it. No, I've passed it too, but I actually want to play Burial at Sea, the DLCs for Infinite.
Oh.
Those technically connect Infinite to BioShock 1.
I've heard about that, but I've never
I really want to go into that. Maybe we can play them. The whole aspect of it being in a whole, like, different area, the clouds and stuff, the gameplay is what most people that don't like it talk about. Saying that the gameplay was something they weren't expecting, that it was a change up from the first one, so they didn't really like it.
Yeah, there are times where the gameplay is just a little weird. Not so much, like, on my take on it.
Yeah.
It's more on just the controls and like the mechanics that are given to you. Because from what I remember, like switching between powers and switching between like your your weapons and abilities, it's weird. It takes you out of the feeling.
It literally has to pull you out of the game to tell you what you want and then throw you back into the game.
Yeah, it's not something that, like, it switches on the fly like it would in real life.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
It's something that you have to manually go through, and then it kind of kills. I guess that's where people hate it.
Yeah, it's understandable.
With a lot of games, and the whole BioShock series, it's no exception to me.
Yeah.
The thing that really gets me is, like, how well the atmosphere is laid out. In the first BioShock, it has a whole like early 90s feel mixed with like underwater despair. Oh, yeah. And that's amazing. I love that. And then the BioShock Infinite, it has this like steampunk early American feel.
Yeah,
and
really
that's
does.
amazing too.
Yeah, true.
When a world in a video game feels lived in and it feels like
there's a lot more to it than what you
like
already are getting yourself into.
Yeah, like if you feel like you're dropped into this world rather than this world formed because you started. That just it makes the game that much more better. That much better.
Yeah, no, I get you. I agree entirely.
Yeah. So what was the game that you were thinking of?
The game I don't know if it's considered a AAA game though. I honestly cannot say because it's like it started out in PS2 And I don't know if PS2
Still.
was it. Did they have AAA games at
Yeah.
that time and stuff? Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a AAA game
Okay.
because it's made by Square Enix.
Yeah. So Kingdom Hearts. That's the one game I will constantly play anytime, at any day, dive myself in. Literally, if I find someone who enjoys talking about Kingdom Hearts or playing the games and like already knows the story as much as I do, maybe even more, so that way I could learn something from them. We could talk about it all day long. We could literally go because the story is so crazy, so in depth. Like you said, this world was a world that so much happened before you were dropped in the first game. Before even Sora was like Sora's the main character of the game.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, so you realize that a lot happened way before even Sora was born. Way before Sora became the chosen one, like quote unquote. So it's just a great story. It's a great experience to just learn all this magical stuff. And on top of that, it's like it has Disney characters in it, so it's just like it feels like it hits home because it's like you grew up with those characters. And now you get to go on an adventure with them, but it's not like a kid-friendly adventure that it's all hugs and kisses and imagination. It's actually like defeating an evil darkness that's growing from the planet's core or from the world's core.
The Lion King wasn't all hugs and kisses. The beginning of Tarzan wasn't hugs and kisses.
But they have made games from those movies that were nothing but hugs and kisses.
No, I
like
don't doubt that.
The alphabet and stuff like that.
We got a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Talked about a lot.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us once more for Cafe Talk. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Like we said in the beginning, like and subscribe helps us a lot. Comment down, what's your favorite game? Question of the day: what was your favorite game? What was the game that turned you into a gamer? Once again, I'm Victor.
I'm Jolin.
And thank you guys for joining us. See you next episode.